And we are back to discuss even more Fire and Blood. This time we'll be tackling the chapter, The Red Dragon and the Gold. Preston, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing okay. How you doing?
It's been a minute, and we're kind of recording late at night, so, fair warning, we may seem a little, exhausted or tired, but we're here, we're trekking away.
Are you trying to say that trudging through Fire and Blood is hard? What are you
This
trying to
chapter
say?
specifically is very depressing, especially for Rhaenyra. Holy shit, it's super depressing.
Yeah, it's funny because it was a lot of battle stuff, and and just more battle stuff, and you're wondering, it's not you don't get too much into the characterization and the things that really drive stories. I don't actually think it's George R. R. Martin's best writing. Because you're not really engaged on what's going on with people so much as just hearing about battle after battle after battle. But yeah, no, I mean a lot goes on event wise, but it's I mean we can get into it, but it's just yeah, it's a lot of events and less to do with uh, personal relationships, which is I think something that people relate to more.
Right. And before we begin, real quick, I don't know if you heard. You probably haven't because I don't think you're into it as much as I am. But the nightmare scenario for every single Ice and Fire fan has happened to another fandom. Kentaro Miura, the creator of Berserk, recently died, and the similarities
Oh.
here, yeah, the similarities here is that Berserk, to me at least, was Ice and Fire before George put pen to paper.
I mean,
And
I'm not even a big manga guy, and I've heard of Berserk. Yeah, I
right.
mean, yeah, I know. Yeah,
It's been
okay.
going on since 1989. It has not finished, and it may never finish. The thing has been going on longer than I've been alive, and the author died a while ago due to heart problems. So yeah, rest in peace to Kentaro Miura. Uh,
Wow.
so it's the nightmare scenario for every Ice and Fire fan. I feel like I'm gonna hit up like Twitter or Facebook one day and just see everybody posting about George's death. God forbid, knock on wood.
I
But
mean, I mean, it's eventually gonna happen. He's not gonna finish
hmm,
the series, but we're just hoping to get Winds of Winter. But yeah, I mean, this happens a lot. I guess it happened to Dune and it happened to Wheel of Time. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
what are you gonna do?
People are too ambitious. Gosh.
That is true. So rest in peace to him. For those of you who want to check out Ice and Fire before Ice and Fire, check out the Berserk movies on Netflix. They're fantastic. Any other adaptation, please don't touch those. But anyways, let's get on to Fire and Blood. So, the chapter begins in the Riverlands with Rhaenyra's supporters striking first against all Aegon's supporters in the region and securing the Riverlands for the Blacks. This further solidifies the whole taking of the Riverlands, with Daemon taking Harrenhal. And while
Yeah.
Rhaenyra's supporters gather, Otto Hightower spends a good chunk of time trying to rally lords to their side, which bothers Aegon II, who wants actions, not words. And after Otto tries to win over Dorne and the Free Cities Triarchy with nothing to show for it, Aegon removes him and names Christian Cole as the new Hand. Other than beheading Rhaenyra's supporters in the dungeons, Christian Cole first sends Kingsguard Eric Cargill on an assignment to sneak onto Dragonstone and murder Rhaenyra and or her family. But because Arik has a twin brother, Eric, none of the guards would suspect otherwise, making it the perfect plan, or so it would seem. Before Eric can reach Rhaenyra or her family, he runs into his twin brother on Dragonstone, and the two fight each other to the death. Uh, this is insanely hilarious and sad at the same time because
Oh yeah.
I struggled for a minute during their fight to remember which one is which. Eric and
Well,
Arik.
you're supposed to confuse them.
Right, I love that
I
though.
mean, you want to jump to my notes about Eric and Arik?
Hmm.
Because I mean, I God, my notes are long on this goddamn chapter. Um, my notes are man, there sure are plenty of mistaken identities in Ice and Fire, especially with twins. Jaime and Cersei left and right, the Drinkwater twins, Aaron and Emmerich on the wall, Gilly's sisters, not to mention things like Mance and Rattleshirt, perhaps the Risewell brothers in Winterfell, Rosamund and Myrcella, perhaps Quentin. It's really ridiculous because I've met a lot of twins in my life. I have never met twins that I couldn't differentiate one from the other. As much as this is like such a trope in writing that, oh, twins can take each other's place, I've never met twins where one can be, switched up for the other. I have some very, very good friends who are identical twins who people say that about. And I'm like, they say it, but come on. Like I look at them, I'm like, no, you can totally tell the difference. Like, yeah, they're close, but they're complete. Like I can totally tell the difference. So it's ridiculous that there's so many mistaken identity, like twin things going on in Ice and Fire. Like ridiculous trope. Like it's ridiculous that it's done over and over and over again. By the way, it just occurred to me, and when doing this twin thing, do you think Jaime will ever dress up like Cersei to try to infiltrate the castle?
God, I hope not. That would be so weird. God,
right?
I hope not.
It doesn't work. I mean, right? Because this is what happens here, right? One Kingsguard dresses up like the other. I mean, I guess he didn't have to do much to dress up.
I don't think Jaime and Cersei look that much alike as adults.
They're supposed to look identical. They're supposed like Bran describes them as looking as seeing them as mirror images.
Well, Bran's a child, and children exaggerate. There's no way Jaime and Cersei look that.
And when they were young, Cersei used to dress up like Jaime,
right? And their mothers couldn't tell them apart, right?
Couldn't tell them apart, which is ridiculous, right?
It's just ridiculous.
But take that last scene in like season 8, like how Jaime's trying to infiltrate and get into the castle at the end.
Yeah,
wouldn't have been hilarious if like his way to get in is to dress up like Cersei.
God, that would be fun. Ridiculous, but fun. I'll give you that much.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, have you ever met two twins that are indistinguishable?
Looks wise, obviously, but personality wise, yeah, you could usually tell them apart. I remember this one kid. I would always greet them both, and one guy would be like, "Hey, Carmine, what's up?" Very friendly. The other guy would be like,
Yeah, but then there's usually something on the face, like one guy has darker circles, or one guy has a broader jaw, or some guy has a wider nose. There's always something that's little. Human beings are very good at detecting very small changes, on humans. Like we're built for it. Faces, relatively speaking, are very similar, but our brains are hardwired to find very small differences and highlight them. This is why, we can't tell chimpanzees' faces apart, but we can tell human faces apart, or we can't tell cat faces apart, but we can tell human faces apart, because we're hardwired to look at human faces and tell them apart. So it's stupid. It's so stupid that there's this many twins. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant on the twins. So I think this is really, and I don't know if I'm laughing at George or if I'm laughing at the Maesters and he's doing this, on purpose. But the Dance of the Dragons entering a new stage after Luke after Luke dies, right? Luke and Jaehaerys dies, and now it's really, they've upped the ante and everything's about vengeance. It's like, I'm sorry, didn't Daemon already scorch the Riverlands and take Harrenhal? You don't think at this point it's already war? The fact that they have to be well, now it's really war. You're like, come on.
For real this time.
It sounds like it was war before. Then the other thing that was weird. The Brackens are attacked by raiders, and you're supposed to wonder if it's the Blackwoods. And it's weird that they blame religion. They're like, the Blackwoods are the last ones south of the Neck that worship the old gods. And you're like, okay, but we haven't even established yet that the Starks, what side the Starks are on. In fact, later on, the Ravens get sent to the Starks to try to get them to each side. So why would the Blackwoods religion be relevant to whose side they're on now if they haven't even reached out to the Starks yet, or the Starks haven't really made their statement. It doesn't
I
make
feel like
much
the
sense
Starks
to
kind
me.
of did throw in. I forgot which one of her sons went to Winterfell because it's like I think it was
Yeah, yeah,
Jace.
yeah. Oh, he does. He goes up there, but
Yeah,
like, but later they try to send ravens and everything. So I don't know. It's weird how they put a lot of cart before the horse by saying, oh well, the Blackwoods like already jumped in. Like the Starks, like Jace was supposed to marry somebody eventually down the line, but and then maybe then he had the whole thing with the bastard girl.
Sarah Snow.
Sarah, yeah, Sarah Snow. Is it Sarah Sansa? Sarah Snow?
Sarah Snow, I believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe something else happened that locked the Starks in earlier. Interestingly enough, like all that's not in Princess and the Queen, and this was added. That extra Stark stuff was added for Fire and Blood, and I wonder if George, I, I wonder if George added that, knowing that the series has to have more Starks in it. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's two things going on. Like Princess and the Queen is supposedly abridged, but then Fire and Blood could be the unabridged, or it could be that George added something later. Because there's some other stuff that's added in here that definitely makes me raise an eyebrow.
Like what?
Uh, um, like Mushroom being Rhaenyra's advisor.
That was. We'll get to
That's
that, but that was a
yeah.
little like really.
Yeah, I mean, that is not in Princess and the Queen, and it is so reminiscent, obviously, of Tyrion being advisor for Daenerys that you have to go, huh? What? Where did this
Like
happen?
Mushroom puts the brilliant idea of the whole dragon seed thing, which yeah,
Yeah,
that was a little.
and that's all
Hmm.
added. Um, but anyway, the weirdness with the Raiders, of course, in the Riverlands, of course, like this is clearly a reference to the raiding of Mummer's Forge, Scherer, and Wendish Town. You know, where that raiding happens, and then they come to King's Landing, and you have these peasants telling these weird stories to Ned, and then Ned sends off Dondarrion to find the mountain, and then the mountain is ambushed, right?
Hmm.
Um, that scene is so weird, and I like because it seems like the peasants are all lying because their stories don't make any sense, and I don't know why like what George is doing because it ended up not leading to anything. He even recalls it in A Dance with Dragons with a bunch of like weird lying peasants coming to Dany and talking about Astapor. And you're like, I don't know what George is going on, you know, like was the rating on, you know, Mummer's Forge, Scherer, and Wendish Town real or not? You know, did the mountain really do it? Because the stories don't make any sense at all, but it seems like the mountain did it. It's so odd, and I don't know why George R. R. Martin keeps focusing on this really odd piece in a Game of Thrones. It's so much so that like they kept it in the show. They're clearly lying in the show. They switch whether it's like Varys instigating stuff to Littlefinger instigating stuff. They switch it, but there's clearly like a weird instigation of trying to get um, uh, Eddard to start a war, and it's a very odd scene. It's odd that George R. R. Martin is now bringing it up for the third time, you know, and I don't know. I always think there's something fishy going on, and some people are like, Preston, you're reading into something that's crazy, or other people are like, yeah, I think George did something, and then he just forgot about it.
That seems
But
like the most
like,
likely explanation.
yeah, like he put in something super fishy where like all the stories don't add up, and then he never went back to it.
Right? Remember, like all the religious people going to the wall and then nothing ever coming of it.
Right? Yeah, dropped plot of A Clash of Kings. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, The so another thing that I thought was interesting is that so Damon is leading the Dairies, the Roots, the Pipers, and the Freys in on his side, on the black side in the Dance of the Dragons, which means the Dairies and the Freys rivalry is not from the dance. Because, like, you know, in A Feast for Crows, how there's this like listed rivalry of the Darys and the Freys, like their bodies are washing up on the Quiet Isle, and he's like Bracken and Blackwood, Darry and Frey, and you're like, why do the Darys and Freys hate each other? And you know, I'm not.
I always assumed like almost all the Riverland houses hate the Freys to some extent. I would always, because everybody just seems to like hate a Frey.
But there's a couple intermarriages with the Darys and the Freys. I don't know why there would be a Darry Frey rivalry, but it's a weird mystery because here they're on the same sides again. So maybe I'm not sure if it's from the Blackfire Rebellion or because the Freys were in the second Blackfire Rebellion. The Freys were hinting at joining the Blackfires, and the Darys were, of course, very anti-Blackfire. Or it might be from Robert's Rebellion that the Darys were so behind the Targaryens, and the Freys were kind of like, we're gonna see who wins. So I don't know. So something that comes later. Let's see. Harrenhal. The situation at Harrenhal falling makes Aegon worry. I wrote, yeah, totally should, since Harrenhal is key to the crossing of the Trident and forces from the north. This is a huge plot point in almost all of the wars, is who takes Harrenhal or Lord Harroway's town or that crossing there. The second Blackfire Rebellion, the whole wedding with Butterwell is all about that crossing. And so, you know, if you don't control Harrenhal in that area, you know, the North can come in and invade King's Landing. Let's see. There's a reference about Dorne rejects joining, and then Otto Hightower makes a reference to thrones are won with swords, not quills. That's clearly a reference to the Red Wedding, it being flipped, you know?
Oh, that's a nice catch. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of people join the Blacks, all the Hightower vassals, Mullendore, Castaigne, Beesbury, and the Tarleys, who I don't know if the Tarleys aren't Hightower vassals, but they're close enough to the lands that they've essentially had the Hightower surrounded, and the Tyrells go neutral. So the Hightowers really have their work cut out for them. So the war is not looking great, considering that the Blacks have conquered the Riverlands pretty much, and the huge power in the Reach. The Hightowers have their work cut out for them, completely surrounded by their vassals. Let's see. The bureaucracy stops the Three Sisters from joining. And this causes, which is a big deal considering that the Three Sisters in not the Three Sisters like the Three Islands off of White Harbor, but the Three Sisters as in like Myr, Tyrosh, and Lyse. They would hate Daemon because Daemon fought them for the Stepstones with those wars there. So really, it should be a given that those forces join, but bureaucracy delays them, and this causes Aegon to not like Otto Hightower, and he dumps him and gives the handship to Cole, which is kind of invented. You know, I guess they needed a reason, but it's like, you know, he had no control over that. And then Cole starts executing people in the dungeons unless they plead fealty. And, you know, it was kind of a mystery whether Beesbury died during that great council meeting or if he dies here. But I guess it doesn't matter now because he's going to die one way or the other.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was actually very surprised how a good chunk of the people would rather die than swear to Aegon.
Yeah. I mean, after the Blackwater, a few people do that, but not many. Most people bend the knee. Mm-hmm. So.
Next up, after Cole sends one of the Kingsguard to the assassination and that fails, he would march on the lands of the lords that would have joined Rhaenyra's side and punish them. On one such occasion, Rhaenys, the queen who never was, flies over from Dragonstone to Rook's Rest to help one of Rhaenyra's supporters, who Cole had laid siege to. This, however, was a part of the plan. As Rhaenys and her dragon fought the men on the ground, she was caught unaware by two dragons. King Aegon on Sunfire and Aemon on Vhagar. Now, alone, Rhaenys probably could have taken one of those dragons on, but not two. And as such, By the time the battle was done, Rhaenys and her dragon had died, while King Aegon had suffered gruesome injuries. Aemon, who came out of the fight with his dragon unharmed, assumed the role of protector of the realm and kept Colon as Hand of the King.
Yeah, now this battle over in Cracklaw Point, there's some interesting stuff here. So Duskendale, they go in and they need to take the lands up until Harrenhal. So this all makes sense strategically. I'm actually reading the Dance of the Dragons and all the movements. I'm like, okay, George is really paying attention on the logic of this war. Which he doesn't do for, say, Robert's Rebellion. But like the Dance of the Dragons is a very logical war if you look at the movements and the geography and everything. But so Cole knows that Harrenhal is the key, but he needs to push forces outside and take land closer to Harrenhal, to create a buffer between it and King's Landing. And so he takes Duskendale, and then I think they kill all the Darklands, which is clearly done because Stefan Darkland, the Kingsguard, had defected. Because there's no reason that they should have been so harsh to the Darklands here, which obviously is supposed to remind us of the defiance of Duskendale, and how Aerys was so harsh to the Darklands then. To ask the question, are we really guilty for our family's sins, And in Ice and Fire, apparently a lot, they start punishing people for what other people do. But then there's still no attack on King's Landing, and there's a debate over why, which of course mirrors the show. Did you write anything down about that?
No, I try to forget how dumb that was that Dany just didn't go for it immediately.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, but
I know. And
it does happen
they don't.
here.
Here the excuse is that Rhaenyra is out of it, that she's emotionally out of it because of her dead son, and Corlys and Rhaenys, the queen who never was, are really in charge. And so,
for me, it seemed more like Vhagar was the true threat, that there's no way they could take Vhagar, even with, they needed heavy numbers on their side, and she wasn't willing to risk her children who had dragons that could ride.
Yeah. So it was a pretty big battle in Cracklaw Point. And it's a pretty significant thing that, Rhaenys and Meleys die, and that Sunfire and Aegon are injured. And, of course, when Rhaenys dies, she's unrecognizable. Because, of course, it's George, Why not? Could have been a body switch. Never know. I think she, oh no, it's later on. Somebody else is 4 days dying. But yeah, Rhaenys is unrecognizable. Fine. Okay. So it's interesting is that Aegon is out of it after this, and so Aemond is now ruling things and running things, which is a pretty obvious Bloodraven reference, because when they both have one eye. They're both a little harsher and crueler than the actual king, So under Bloodraven, it was Aenys the second, or is it Aerys the first? I'm confusing their names, but whatever the case is, Bloodraven was ruling in the king's stead, while and here Aemond is ruling in their stead, but. And then I have here Mushroom becoming the advisor, just like Tyrion to Dany. All right, so what happens next?
Well, in the aftermath of the whole battle at Rook's Rest, Rhaenyra's family realized that they had a golden opportunity that could end their biggest obstacle to taking King's Landing, Vhagar. With Sunfire unable to fly, and Aegon's wife unwilling to fly Dreamfire, the Blacks could swarm Aemon and Vhagar and take the mount. But because Vhagar was the biggest dragon, they would need numbers on their side, which they did not have, until Mushroom proposed using dragon seeds to fix this. Real quick, tell the audience what dragon seeds are.
Dragon seeds. Oh, this is a big deal. Dragon seeds are people on Dragonstone who are are bastards or descendants of bastards from Targaryens. So the Targaryens on Dragonstone and presumably on Driftmark and perhaps Claw Isle, they had lord. There was lord's right to the first night on these islands, and so Targaryens could essentially go and have sex with any newlywed women, and before their actual husbands could, just like in the North, which had lord's right to the first night, and so because of this, you end up having all of these bastards, Targaryen descendant bastards running around the islands. And apparently people loved it, according to the history. They loved it. The gods got to bang their wives. I'm sure people loved it.
The one thing I find weird in regards to the show is the show portrays Dragonstone as a very small island with no towns or anything like that. So I wonder if if this is truly a prequel, if they're gonna keep Dragonstone as having a town, because like even go back to the show, like Google image search like an aerial view of Dragonstone, it's literally a small island with a castle on it, and that's it. Yeah. There's no towns. I don't think there's a port anywhere. So but
and so one of the theories I have is that Daenerys, because Daenerys was supposedly born on Dragonstone, but she could, I was saying that she could easily have just been some random dragon seed child that they picked up from a local to pose as an actual daughter of Aerys II. That it's a little contrived that Daenerys's mother, who had a long history of birthing problems, had her just at the nick of time during this storm, and that maybe they just, they needed it. Viserys wanted somebody to broker marriage, to have marriage alliances, have that value, and so that he just grabbed a random bastard girl and was like, yeah, this is my sister. Why not?
I mean, this wouldn't be the first time that this has been accused of in the story. Isn't that the whole thing behind fake Aegon?
Sure, that's the theory behind fake Aegon. I mean, it's
a popular one with it, like Jon.
It's Arya and Jane Poole's situation up in Winterfell. Mm-hmm. People paying weddings and marriages with false coin. I mean, people paying, in fact, or hostage situations in general. Like at the Wall, Tormund tries to hand over two girls instead of two boys, in a hostage situation. So yeah, paying hostage situations and marriage alliances are essentially hostage situations. And so you're just paying with false coin. You don't have it, so why not?
I have to wonder if they're even going to have Mushroom in the prequel show, because it'll be way too much of a Tyrion parallel, and that's kind of lame. I mean,
I feel like they should, right? He's.
This is one of the things I think they should omit. Would be like the character of Mushroom, because once again, whoever they choose to play that character, it would have to be a little person, and oh my god, right. The weight of Peter Dinklage, oh my god, and all the parallels, it would be just kind of lame.
The thing is like anytime he said something clever, everyone would be like, "Oh, there's the dink," right?
Right.
Because in a sense he is the fool, so he's supposed to be smart and clever. He's supposed to be saying funny things, but the problem is they made Show Tyrion into the joke teller. I mean, I don't know. Book Tyrion tells his jokes, but they don't try to make it. I mean, he tells his jokes, but the jokes are few and far between compared to like the show, which just seems to be comic relief scene after comic relief scene, especially in the later seasons.
Nothing for him, but
yeah, nothing else for him except to say one-liners. Yeah.
So, Mushroom proposes the idea to use dragon seeds to fix this whole numbers issue, and as such, the Red Sowing would commence, an event where men and women from all over Dragonstone and the other isles would come to try and mount a dragon to fight for the Blacks. A few rose from this deadly trial: Hugh the Hammer, Adam of Hull, Ulf the White, and Nettles. And before the attack on King's Landing could unfold, Otto Hightower's request for an alliance from the Free Cities was granted, just in time. 90 ships from Myr, Lys, and Tyrosh set out to meet the Valyrian fleet at Gullet, but before this fleet arrives there, they come across Rhaenyra's sons, Viserys and Aegon the Younger, on their way to Pentos for safety. However, Aegon escapes on his dragon, and Viserys is captured. The fleet still arrives to meet the Valyrian.
Viserys, who tries to do a Prince and the Pauper swap thing again, like this whole mistaken identity thing, where he tries to, I guess swap himself out, like young Griff or whoever. Yeah.
So
I was going to talk about Adam of Hull's parentage for a second.
Oh, I have that written down in my notes. We can discuss that towards the end if you don't mind.
Okay,
because that was a little funny to me.
And then Nettles, how she rides a dragon is also very important. Because unlike Ulf the White, Hugh the Hammer, and Adam of Hull, they seem to have some sort of psychic bond with a dragon. But Nettles, the same way Daenerys would or whoever, they whatever Targaryens have in their blood, in their genetic code that makes them bond to dragons in the same way that Starks can bond to direwolves or whatever, they're doing. But Nettles doesn't, despite being supposedly a dragon seed, Nettles doesn't do that. Nettles puts down food, has Sheep Stealer eat the food, get groggy, and then she mounts the dragon, and then the dragon gets used to her because, one would ride a regular horse, like you don't have a psychic bond with a regular horse, but you can tame a regular horse. She tames a dragon without that psychic bond. And so it's a little interesting because Quentin attempts this strategy in A Dance with Dragons, feeding it food and then trying to mount it. But
Quentin was clearly impatient in this, and his approach was not as subtle.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I mean, again, most people would say that Quentin isn't successful. I would say that maybe he is, but it's but who knows? I mean, he also thinks he has a blood connection, but clearly, doesn't happen.
I want to come back to this afterwards, but the Triarchy fleet arrives to meet the Valyrian forces. Some manage to land on Driftmark and lay waste to most of the island, destroying Spicetown and setting fire to the Valyrian castle of Hightide. All of the wealth and the treasure the Sea Snake has amassed from his time in the east went up in flames. And in the end, the Triarchy retreated from the battle, but not before the Valyrians lost a third of their fleet, and a casualty on Rhaenyra's side is Jace and his dragon are dead. Despite the Pyrrhic victory at Gullet, the defeat of the Black supporters in the Reach, and the loss of her own son, Rhaenyra still was determined to win the throne or die trying. However,
to win, but not really win, right?
Right. And despite her resolve, Aemon still feels as though the true threat was Daemon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince. In Harrenhal still, but instead of waiting for backup from the Baratheons and his brother Daeron, Aemon set out with his army in an attempt to defeat the Blacks situated in the Riverlands. However, the chapter ends when Aemon marches to meet Daemon, but Daemon has flown around this force and arrives in King's Landing with Rhaenyra to take the city, with the help of some of his supporters still within the city.
And very significantly, it says that Rhaenyra does not join the battle. She only lands when everything is super safe. Again, like there's been no point in which what's his face with the mirror shield, whoever could try to approach Syrax. Tyrion is wrong about his assessment of which dragon, let's see. I have to bring it up again. Yes. Byron Swan. Yes, Byron Swan tried to walk up, and it's clearly, Tyrion thinks he did it to Syrax, and that Maester Munkin was in error, but in fact Tyrion's wrong, because there's no point in the war in which anybody has a chance to sneak up on Syrax. Just doesn't happen.
The notes I have here is that Laenor, who was supposedly a homosexual, had 2 sons with a woman named Mouse, but this is disputed as likely being Corlys' sons, not Laenor's. This reminds me of Robert's whole thing with Cersei, of how he wanted to get Maya Stone and have her live in King's Landing, but Cersei and her fiery temper would not have it. Kind of reminds me of that.
So let's go the other way, though. Hold on. Let's say for a second, let's put forward the argument that I don't necessarily think this is the case, but let's put forward the case that Laenor is actually heterosexual.
Okay.
And that, and that they're trying to defame him, claim that he's gay in order to say that his children are bastards. Like, what if Laenor is actually the true father of Luke, Jace, and Joffrey, and he's heterosexual? Now, here in this situation, Corlys claims paternity over Adam of Hull. But what if Laenor is actually really Adam of Hull's father? You could understand why that would be insulting to Rhaenyra, and he wouldn't want to. They wouldn't want to insult Rhaenyra, so that Corlys could take the heat and claim that the bastard is his.
Okay, that's a good point.
I mean, just like Eddard claimed, Jon is his bastard, for various reasons.
Would be a nice parallel, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be that Laenor is heterosexual the whole time. His children are trueborn.
What a fucking twist.
And Adam and Hull is actually his bastard, and Corlys is just taking the heat.
So the chapter I actually quite enjoyed. I thought it was good. I know you're a little lukewarm on it because of the battles and all that, but I kind of like it when the dragons are involved, in the sense it shakes things up nicely, and especially with the dragon seeds as well. It's a nice little twist in the whole thing. But no, I actually enjoyed the chapter. I liked it a lot.
Oh, there's one last thing. Laurie Strong disappears, but is still working in King's Landing secretly, just like Varys does. Between the end of A Storm of Swords and his reappearance at the end of A Dance with Dragons.
I forgot the jailer that Varys pretends to be. Fuck, what's his name again?
Rugen,
yeah.
The jailer. Which I mean, I guess if Larius is able to disappear so easily, I would guess that he knows about the secret passages, which would fit into my blood and cheese theory. That
I find it insane how they probably perhaps could have prevented King's Landing from being taken so easily had I always forget her name, Aegon's wife, Helena.
Yeah.
How if she just rode Dreamfire, she probably could have fended off both of them, or at least one of them.
I think Dreamfire. I mean, I don't know. Helena was pretty young. I understand that Dreamfire is sizable, but I have to see how old Helena was when she died. I might be misremembering her age. She's fairly old. She's 21 actually. So you're right. She could have.
And I will say, I don't know, maybe I'm being silly, but I find it kind of weird and hilarious that Alicent gives Rhaenyra the keys to the Red Keep. It's just, I don't know. I just assume that someone takes like a castle, they get the keys in some shape or form. But the fact that the Red Keep has keys, like a car that she just gives, just a little funny to me.
I mean, we didn't hear about these keys at any other time.
It's just, I'm sorry, it's so random to me.
Yeah, it is a little random.
But no, I like the chapter. I thought it was great.
Just so much happens at once.
I know. It's 30 pages and it's, what is this, at least not half, but at least 1/3, maybe a quarter of the entire dance?
I mean, this should be an entire season of House of the Dragon.
An
So we'll
entire
see.
season. You know what? I think you might be right. Was it season 2 right here? These 30 pages,
Maybe
season 2?
These 30 There's so many little theories that like, like that come out of this, how does Nettles ride a dragon? Who's the parentage of Adam of Hull? You know, why are these different people, fighting for various sides? Did Rhaenys really die in Crackle Point? What happened to the dragon eggs? With Viserys on the ship. What was really going on in that brother versus brother Kingsguard battle? I don't know. It's there's a lot goes on.
So I was gonna say, it seems like almost anyone can ride a dragon or tame a dragon. However, those that have the Valyrian blood in them have a special buff, like maybe a 5+ buff to riding one, whereas everybody else has a -10 debuff to riding a fucking dragon, and you have to be super lucky and get really good rolls.
Maybe I think it's just that Nettles is supposed to be clever and fearless, right? I mean, she's a little Asha Arya, right? The character that the archetype character that George R.R. Martin loves, like the little tomboyish, fearless girl, that is gonna do something like that. So, I mean, maybe they'll cast Maisie Williams for Nettles.
Oh god, I so wish she had a cameo so I could like pay her to give you a shout out. But she does not have a cameo.
Instead you're gonna get me a birthday gift of Braun.
Braun?
I
don't even think he's on there as
Is he
well.
on?
I'll get you
Ed Dolores Ed is on there.
I'll get you the dude who played fuck. Oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. The
Young Hodor?
The Gold Cloak's commander that John beheads. Fuck, I forgot his name.
Oh, Janos Slynt.
Janos Slynt. He's the closest to Alardine you're gonna get, so might as well. Might as well.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's a few. I mean, Cersei's on there.
Oh no, Lena Headey does not give a fuck. She does not. I know we went off on this. Lena Headey, if you go, by the way, for the audience who are curious, Cameo is this like service where you go and some celebrities are on there and you pay them upwards of like $250 to $200 for like a specialized message for yourself or for a friend or loved one.
Yeah.
And some Game of Thrones actors are on there, not the ones you'd want, but the other characters you kind of don't want.
With the exception, actually, they just got Ian McKilney.
No way. Let me see this.
Yeah.
No way. Bullshit.
So,
what is he? Was he?
Yeah.
Let me see this.
$150.
100. Oh, right.
They got David Bradley.
David Bradley. Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Normally, it's people. Yeah, it's people like the guy who plays Umber and stuff like that, or the guy that played Rhaegar in the flashback. Like, really?
Don't you want to pay $30 for Toby Osmond, the dude who played the new Prince of Dorne in season 8 for 3 minutes? You don't want to pay $30 for that? You're an asshole. You're an asshole if you don't pay for that.
Some of them are all. I mean, look at that. He's the guy who played Rhaegar in the flashback is $200. That makes no sense.
God.
That makes no sense.
For $200, you could get
You could get Barristan Selmy for $150. Why would I pay for Rhaegar's flashback guy? That's ridiculous. Shireen is a bargain. Shireen is only $45.
You could get Dominic Carter for $50 plus Barristan Selmy for 140. There you go. For the two actors, the price of one. That's a steal right there.
Yeah, yeah. There's Pycelle is on there.
Pycelle is still alive. Jesus Christ. Hodor is on there for a generous 99. There you go. Anyways, we're getting off track here. So Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood. Like I said, good chapter. I enjoyed it. The next one, Rhaenyra triumphant, and then afterwards Rhaenyra, well, what is it? Dethroned, defeated, something like that.
Yeah. It's going. We're working there. We're getting
there. Watch the moment we finish. George announces it. Oh, I can feel it.
Well, it would be nice. It would be nice to get this done before House of the Dragon comes out.
Oh, we're definitely gonna get this done before House of the Dragon comes out.
Yeah, because I mean, this is what it's going to be about. We have to know this material in and out, and yeah.
Preston, any last thoughts on this chapter?
No. I mean, just a lot of action. But I don't know. Yeah, like as I said, fairly impressed that George was paying attention to the map and paying attention to the battles. But it's a lot of it's set up for next time, actually, especially with the dragon seeds. Because what happens to the dragon seeds is really, I mean, that changes the whole war, and that's all next time.
I love how Aemon sets off and he goes, all right, we're going to go to Harrenhal. It's going to take us 16 days to get there. I'm like, really?
Yeah, is that a reference? Do you think that was a reference to Stannis' march? And they're like, oh, the number of days it's going to get, going to take, and then they don't have the estimation right?
I don't think it's a reference to Stannis' march. More so, it's semi, maybe I'm being a little too paranoid, semi-shade at the showrunners for how ridiculous, like, the whole map marching thing was. Yeah. Because they also kind of do it in the sense where I remember it took Alysanne a couple of days to reach the wall from Winterfell. So
just flying, right?
Mm-hmm, just flying.
Yeah.
So, I feel like it's just small shade, but I like that he kept that in there. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next time to discuss more Fire and Blood. As always, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.